Hey scrappers, it's Tom from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. Now just so you know, while this is a pre-recorded video, we are live answering questions. So if you have any questions that you do want answered, do not think twice about asking them on whatever social platform you're on. And if you're watching this after hours, of course, comment with your ideas, your thoughts, your questions, your prices, and we'll go from there. Now, first and foremost, if you want to be highlighted and you want to have your question really spotlighted through YouTube, you can go to the Super Chat feature. Through this feature, you can have your question highlighted, and if someone else wants to outbid you and have their topic talked about, we're always looking for new ideas and new topics, so make sure you look there. Now this week, we've seen a little bit of a price fluctuation, and here we are. Yesterday, we saw an infrastructure package actually pass through the Senate. 69 votes yes, 31 votes no, or maybe it was 30 votes no. But what does that mean for scrap? Well, we're gonna have $1 trillion. These numbers just keep seeming like monopoly money, although I'm not sure monopoly boards go high enough to keep up with the numbers that the government is printing. But what is it gonna mean for the scrap market? Believe it or not, it's not going to mean as much as you think, because we are months, if not a year away from these things really starting to take place. Now, we know 12 months is a long period of time, and it's really difficult to gauge where scrap's going to be 12 months from now, because there's so many different things going on in the world. Between now and the infrastructure really hitting, we're not sure where we're going to be. But let me tell you a couple of what-if scenarios. Now, there are large road crews in the entire country right now that are celebrating with balloons and confetti, knowing that they're going to be rebuilding the roads, rebuilding highways, bridges, tunnels. So they're really excited, but that's not going to produce as much scrap as you would think. Yes, bridges weigh a lot, but you as a scrapper that's scrapping from day to day, you're probably not going to be affected by that. I don't think that you're going to be able to take your truck down and pick up a 60,000 pound piece of steel, even though you would love to. So that might not affect things, but what we will start to see is some of these larger rebar manufacturers, larger bridge manufacturers who make these beams, they're going to need a massive amount of steel. But because we've seen the price so strong in 2021, even with the drops that we've seen over the last month, we might not begin to see a further increase in the pricing or in the demand, because it's already there right now. What we've been looking at is manufacturing cannot keep up with demand, which means that the material that's getting pumped into the mills and the furnaces, they're not able to process it fast enough to spit it out as new product, which is going to affect, the pricing. We're not going to see a drastic increase, because if they already have as much as they can consume, pushing more is actually going to drop prices, because when there's stockpiles that still have to be processed, what happens is these mills, these furnaces, these overseas buyers, they drop the price. If they have more supply then they can process, and I've heard different smelting operations in the US, they're 6 to 8 weeks behind, but they have enough material to supply themselves for 12 weeks of new production. So here they are behind in pumping materials out, but the scrap that they have sitting at their yards getting ready to get put into the furnaces, they have 3 months worth right now. And when we see such infrastructure pushes, we're not going to see a huge impact on the scrap steel market. What I'm looking for is how the EV charging stations go into play, because these are going to be one of the bigger things because of the amount of copper that they're going to need. But we're also a year and a half to 2 years away from this really taking form. So we're not going to see any drastic price changes in the coming months for copper, for aluminum, for steel. That's the bad news, but the good news is we already have high prices. So because we already have really high aluminum prices, near record copper prices, and extremely strong steel prices, which I heard are predicted to go up in September, and if you were a Patreon supporter, you would have gotten some of these updates already, because by becoming a Patreon supporter, we feed you different pieces of news quicker than we do our regular team, just because that's what supporting the iScrap app does. It allows us to do more market research and give you quicker data. So going into the rest of 2021, we don't see a drastic price shift going on. Unless most of the world becomes vaccinated, we're going to have a really slow delay with manufacturing, new production, and that's kind of what we're seeing in the coming months. It's really a very, very strange period of time, and what we're going to look for, unfortunately, is going to be an inflationary period. Because now that we've passed a $1 trillion infrastructure, the Democratic Party is talking about pushing through something called, through budget reconciliation, a $3.5 trillion budget, which would affect 2021, 2022 moving forward. That inflationary period that could come from that being pushed in could actually drive the metal prices up more. But that's something that we might not see kick in until the fourth quarter of this year because of the massive negotiations and all the different political pushback we're going to see. But that's going to be more of an industry driver on the second half of 2022 than I believe we're going to see in the rest of 2021 or the first half of 2022. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I really don't like to talk politics when we talk scrap, but anytime we talk about big dollar amounts, especially when people are going to say, oh, they're going to need steel for the bridges and the roadways, they are, but that material is already there. The demand is already there for it for regular construction projects right now. Look at what happened back in April and May for the lumber market, right? Everyone is rebuilding their house, building a new house, doing an addition. The lumber prices skyrocketed. And when those lumber prices skyrocketed, we saw those big inflationary periods for a couple of months. Then we saw it come back down in June and July. But we have a lot of different things going on commodity-wise. And don't forget what we always say. Commodities are a worldwide thing. They're not U.S. and Canadian-based. They're a worldwide traded thing. And that big change is really something that we're going to look for really the second half of 2022 and not as much 2021. Now, copper over the last week, relatively unchanged. We saw a few cents down, a few cents up. Markets are really strong. We saw Bear Bright averages around 370, 365 nationally, really strong. And believe it or not, we're finally on our final edits for our new iScrap 2.0. You see the graphic behind me. We have it coming out in the next few weeks. You'll be able to report your prices, get market news, get push notifications sent to you quicker, and we're really going to be in a good spot. So we're looking forward to having that going out there and having you tell us what you think. Aluminum, one of the strongest markets in 2021 has been the aluminum market, with prices almost doubling, sheet prices in the 40 to 50 cent range. And I saw 6063 numbers, which we just wrote a blog about, which you'll see published in the next few weeks, ticking up between 80 cents and $1 a pound. Those are crazy numbers, and it's going to be really important for you to learn and read about that blog so you can learn about the different types of aluminum and make more money with your scrap. In other news, oil prices are down about $10 below where they topped off per barrel. We saw like $75, $76 a couple of months ago. We're down in the $66 range. That's not a huge shock. People are talking about the Delta variant. People are talking about people being a little scared of traveling. Some of the people that were working from home, getting ready to go back into the office, might be staying at home for a little while. And we also have the end of the summer going into the school year. So there's a lot of different changes that we're really looking for. And we also, a month from now, if not less, those extra unemployment benefits are scheduled to disappear, which could create a massive influx of people coming from the sidelines who have been at home for a year to a year and a half, jumping back into the labor market, which could cause them to be driving more. We could see the auto demand pick up. So we have a couple of things that are really driving oil prices that we don't have a solid answer on, and we won't have for another 2 months or so. Other industries, catalytic converters, we've seen the platinum prices, they dropped below $1,000 per ounce, and they bottomed out around $954, although we did see about a $30 per ounce up increase just yesterday, so we're hoping that that remained steady, but rhodium's been strong, and the team over at rrcats.com has been really aggressive in quoting people and giving them fair prices in a transparent way. And if you have a problem or a question about cats, we're always available to talk on the phone. You can Facebook message us and we'll set up a little phone conference and we can talk about some of those things as well. Now, scrappers, don't forget, while this is pre-recorded, we are answering your questions, so please feel free to ask them. If you watch this later after our 1 p.m. Entry slot, not a problem. Just let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll make sure to get you that information in the next few hours or the next few days. Scrappers, this is Tom from the iScrap app. We want to talk about a couple more things. We're going to talk about what's in the bucket. So for 2 minutes, I'm going to reach in this bucket, which I've not looked in so far. Here it is, our branded bucket. We're going to see what we have and talk about it for a little while. So we have a box, and I don't know how many scrapyards buy cardboard, but let's see if there's anything good inside. I see gold. So what we see here are some beautiful CPU chips. I'm gonna try to hover a little differently. These are gold-plated CPU chips in different pins that come off of motherboards. These are silver, this is silver-bearing material. Now, a lot of people will ask what prices are for things like this. Some people will actually take these to different pawn shops and they'll try to sell them for like a gold price or some jewelry buyers. But this is generally gold plated on top of either a fiber board or a copper board. I'm not sure if you can break it. No, these are see how they're bending here? So this is probably coated on top of copper. So when you have a lot of gold chips like I'm holding right here, you might want to talk to your local scrapyard or utilize the resources that the iScrap app provides you through our scrap metal recycling talk group on Facebook, where you can ask questions about where to get the best prices. Now, some people like to take these pins and they like to pop them off of different circuit boards. That's certainly something that you could do, but you might want to look at these and try to find a good e-recycler buyer that's going to be able to give you a better idea about the e-scrap market opposed to just selling it to your local scrapyard. You're going to want to get paid in ounces. I will guarantee you that no scrapyard is going to do that. I've never met one in the country that would, but you might be able to find a good e-scrap buyer that would be interested. So take another peek of it. It's nice and pretty. It's shiny. Maybe you make it into a necklace. My anniversary is coming up. I'm not sure how my wife would feel about, gold CPU necklaces, but maybe I'll do a do-it-yourself project, put it together and send you guys a picture. So these are electronic circuit parts from all different electronics. If you have questions about your electronics, whether it's motherboard prices, memory prices, CPU prices, by all means ask us. We've seen the gold prices hover around the $1,740 per ounce mark right now. While it was over $1,800, we're still at a very strong level, and we have started to see the e-scrap prices increasing, which of course you can find through our published prices through our national pricing page. Scrappers, this is Tom from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. Any other questions, let us know. Please look into our Patreon supporting group, and until next time, I'll scrap you later.